Hello, hello. This is Ignacy Trzewiczek from Portal Games.
And Corey Thompson from Above Board TV and other things.
And this is Stephen Bonacore, the Podfather of gaming. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 371. And we're recording this on May 27th, 2025. Board Games Insider, powered by Board Game Geek. Gentlemen, we're all here together. This is a lovely, lovely thing. Corey at the crack of dawn. Ignacy back from traveling. He was traveling last week, which is kind of odd. Why don't you tell us about that and everything else happening at Portal Games?
My first news in my show notes is 50% tariffs is back.
You can do that if you want.
Yes, on Saturday, President Trump announced he's going to give 50% tariff on European products. Then 24 hours later, on Sunday, he said that he's not going to do that, but he may do that on June 9th. So, of course, here in Europe, we are waiting eagerly for the June 9th. For us and for you, our customers and fans and gamers, it is important because many games are produced in Europe. For instance, the game that I was mentioning for the couple of weeks, Neuroshima Hex Battle. We mentioned many times that Age of Galaxy and Bohemians are produced in China, but for Neuroshima Battle, we chose a Polish manufacturer, European manufacturer. So now we are dealing with possible additional 50% of tariff, which is sweet, but we are waiting for June 9th. We were calling manufacturer if they are ready because we want to ship this as soon as possible before the June 9th. But it won't happen. So
I think you got
a
reprieve until July 9th now, didn't you? Didn't he move it to July 9th?
I saw June, maybe July. Maybe it's new news that I don't know. But basically, we are, of course, waiting.
I'll put Paula. Paula's on that. When's those European 50% tariffs happening? Paula, she's going to go look that up. She's amazing.
What we love about the tariffs is the predictability.
Oh, it's so predictable. Like of course, okay, we can produce in China today. Oh no, it's 150% tariffs. Oh, we can produce in Europe. Oh no, it's 50%. It's just.
So, what does it mean for our listeners and for fans of Portal Games? Last Friday, we started pre-orders for Neuroshima Hex Battle in our European web store. So for our European customers, they can pre-order the Neuroshima Hex Battle already. For the American players, we have to wait till the games will reach America and we will know what actually we paid at the customs. So as always, we want to be a little bit of the city, but a little bit giving a context how we operate and how we work. So European players, you can go to portalgames.com and order it. Yes, what is this?
My crack staff here, known as Paula Milano, right there, has determined that you're okay until July 9th. So,
okay, so I need
unless of course it changes again.
Yeah, I need a very fast boat, and we will make it. So the bottom line, if you are a listener from Europe, we have many listeners in Europe. Please go to our website and pre-order Neuroshima Battle. It's amazing. If you are from US, you need to wait till the boat reaches customs, and I will see what will happen. Besides that, Age of Galaxy left China, so this is a good news. We had some adventures in Korea when the container was moved from one ship to the other because there was repackaging of containers. We missed the ship that we needed, but we were packed on another ship, so it's in the transit. So we will be in time for Gen Con, as it looks for now. And for the more conventions newses. Next week we have UK Game Expo in Europe, next to the biggest European convention. I'm not going personally because I have another convention a few days later, but Greg Polewka is going there with a prototype of Bohemians, with the sample of Bohemians, and we are meeting many press and media, running demos, meeting with the influencers, presenting the game. So hopefully in 1 or 2 weeks you will see some information about the game from European influencers, which makes me very, very happy. And the last piece of news, you asked why I was not able to record last week. I was in travel. I was traveling to the city called Rzeszów, that spells R-Z-E-S-Z and many other consonants.
That's crazy.
And in the city of Rzeszów, I was giving interview because we were doing last week Board Game Week. Board Game Week was a 1 week event, online event created here in Poland by Portal Games. Lots of videos, streams, gameplays, all full-blown online convention. Of course, we have some sales, we have some promotions. We did a charity stream, as I always do on my YouTube channel, and I wanted to share information. Then we made some like a conclusion of this part of the charity action in Poland by Portal Games. And in the past 3.5 years, we raised $80,000 for the sick people, for the operations, for the Ukrainian, etc., etc. So
Very nice.
80,000 raised, and we announced a new step in this direction, which is happening in Poland here. So many things, politics with the tariffs, transit with Age of Galaxy, conventions at UK Game Expo, lots of things happening. Busy time, awesome time.
Did you say Jeju? Is that what it was? Where you were? Is that the name?
Rzeszów, yes, Rzeszów.
Jeju. Like that sounds like bless you. So like I didn't sneeze. Hey Corey, what's up now?
Wow, that was fast.
I had to give you. I had to transit. See that I'm a professional. I can like just
You
go
are
between
so
segments.
good. I think your strong suit is segues.
Segue.
So I just got back from KublaCon, which is one of the
Yeah.
large regional conventions in San Francisco. I think you went last year. Did you, Steven?
I did. I was guest of honor last year. Yes, I was.
Oh, that's right. You had the sash and everything.
No
It was good.
No say.
Waving to the fans. So KublaCon in San Francisco, it's California's big convention over Memorial Day weekend every year. And it was a fantastic convention. I've always felt one of the strengths of KublaCon was the prototype organization of the prototype room. This has been around for a long time now, and the group that runs Prototype is absolutely top notch. And one of the really special things we got to do is designer Luke Laurie, who arguably was one of the creators of the prototype scene in California and in neighboring states. Luke Laurie officially retired from his job as a teacher to become a full-time game designer. So we had a little party. Congratulations to Luke. And Luke now has a permanent job at Cardboard Alchemy as their in-house developer designer. What's going on right now is the Brieger Game Design Group and Weird Giraffe Games are at the house. They actually arrived last night at about 1 a.m. And
Wow.
so, of course, it's lovely to wake up at 6 a.m. But I love this group. We had them over to the house last year for just a massive game design and prototype event. And it's going to be about 20 people again. People that I just absolutely love to have around. Aside from that, getting ready for RageCon at the end of June in Reno, Nevada. RageCon is very similar to KublaCon in a lot of ways, a really big regional convention with a very, very strong prototyping and design community. So that's what's been going on over here in California.
Very, very cool. And over here at the Podfather of Gaming, back from my trip to see Mom last week. Lovely trip, and we had a good time together. And home for a week. Yay, home for a little while. But then next Tuesday, so we have to probably change our recording schedule. We'll get to that when I talk to you offline. I head on Tuesday to Las Vegas for a week with my brother, crazy brother, does too much gambling and too much everything. So that's going to be a fun thing. A little bit of time. And then I'm at Origins, where I'm disappointed that Corey won't be there, though he promised me he was, which is why I was going, but he's not going, so I can't see him, or Ignacy for that matter. I might as well be disappointed in both of you simultaneously. And then once I get back, I have like one day, and then I head to Europe, where it's going to be the BGG at Sea Norway cruise. Really excited about this. None of these places I've ever been to. We're going to actually start in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and then do a few days there, go down to Southampton, England to get on the ship. We're going to hit the ports of Aalesund, Molde, Olden, and Haugesund. And I'm sure my pronunciation was bad on every one of those places. And then once we get back, we're going to do Ireland for a few days to Dublin and Galway. So if anybody's in those places that I just mentioned, you want to reach out on the weird chance that we have a chance to get together, that would be cool. We're doing excursions. It's going to be a little hard. But if you happen to be there, Maybe we can get a pint or something like that. In the meantime, let's get to the event deck.
Now, I have one more idea.
Yes, of
I would
course.
feed ChatGPT with our podcast for the last year, and then I will ask him how many days you spend at home and how many days you were away, and then we will run a calculation how much money you would make if you rent your house in the days that you are not at home, because this is like insanely how you are not home, how often you are not at home.
After
This is insane.
after remodeling it, like, and spending all kinds of money making it exactly the way we wanted it, now we
I
don't
want to
see
know
it.
those numbers. I think we should do the math.
We should do the math. Anyway, to the news now. Hey guys, do you remember a time when there was so little news we could almost skip the event deck? Well, it ain't that time anymore. Crazy amounts of news these days, including literally, as we closed the recording last week, we got this, which was the Spiel des Jahres nominations were announced.
It's true. Literally, they showed up in the last half hour of our recording.
If we have a live and running social media page, like a Facebook page, I would definitely post print screens from our WhatsApp conversation, because it was hilarious when you guys stopped recording and then the news showed up and you were yelling and
We were yelling at
whining.
each other. How come you didn't see that news?
That was so funny. So
It
this
was
is
great.
golden content for our social media.
Yep. So what do we got here? Corey, why don't you tell us about the nominees?
So, of course, the Spiel des Jahres has three categories. The first is the actual spiel. The Spiel des Jahres itself is for best game, and it's generally considered to be a family level game. All of the Spiel des Jahres categories run a little bit lighter than what we would talk about as gamers. The nominations for Spiel des Jahres are Bomb Busters by Hisashi Hayashi and Cocktail Games, Flip 7 by Eric Olson and the OP, and Crackle or Rackle by Die Sieben Batzis and French Verlag. Crackle or Rackle was kind of the wild card there. I don't know many people who've heard of that before it showed up in the nominations. And it's a very clever idea. In Crackle or Rackle, there is a piece of paper with very light lines, random lines all over the paper. And you get a topic and you need to draw that subject quickly using the already printed lines on the paper. I'm curious about it, so it looks cool. Of course, the ones that we kind of expected, Bomb Busters, I like to describe as a cooperative campaign Go Fish. It's a deduction game where you need to guess the numbers in other players' hands. I love it. It has 66 missions, and the family has run through most of the game. We have done so well. It's such a good game. It's a re-implementation of Bomb Squad from 2020, but just with souped up ergonomics, and it's such a good title. And Flip 7 we've talked about a million times.
Yeah, and I did a whole video, and I don't do a lot of them, but I did it in my series The Podfather Loves. I did a video on Flip 7 because I think it's just, for its simplicity, for its player count, it's brilliant. So I am kind of rooting for Flip 7 only because I called how great that game was.
I'm rooting for Bomb Busters.
There you go. No problem.
Also, we have the Kenner Spiel Awards, which is the advanced game. And nominated for Kenner Spiel this year is Endeavor Deep Sea by Carl de Visser, Jarrett Gray, and Burnt Island Games, and Grand Gamers Guild, friend of the station.
Oh, yes.
So, congratulations to Mark Spector for the nomination.
Absolutely.
We have Far Away by Johannes Guppy, Corentin Lebrot, and Ketchup Games. Far Away, we've talked about 2-card game where you lay your cards down in one order, but then you score them in reverse order. So you need to pre-think about what conditions you have on cards. And the final one is Loot with many, many O's in it. And this one, I believe it has a different name in Europe. Neuland is the German name. So if you see nominations for Neuland, it's Loot. It's a tile laying game with combinations and things like that to get the most points. We also have the Kinderspiel Awards, and a lot of times we don't recognize these right away. There's a much stronger children's game scene in Europe than there is in the US. So a lot of times these games aren't translated over. But the nominations are Cascadia Jr. by Fertessa Elise, Randy Flynn, and Flatout Games, Le Clan de Souris by Christophe Loras and Debauque Ju, and I apologize for my mispronunciation. French is my worst pronunciation. And then Top de Torta by Wolfgang Warsch and Spiel. And that one's exciting because Wolfgang Warsch, I think, has close to the record for the most nominations.
It's amazing.
So this is another one under his belt. So it's a fantastic group of games. I'm really excited by this list of nominees.
Absolutely. And we spend a lot of time, of course, talking about the Spiel des Jahres because it is the single award that really can affect your sales as a publisher and in the industry as gamers. You're going to see more people playing and being involved with those games than any other awarded game out there. But we have a lot of news. We have a lot of news, so let's move through some of this stuff. The next one is Asmodee actually has tacitly announced that they're going to continue their buyouts of smaller companies. And this came from an interview of the CEO, Thomas Krogler, saying that uncertain times, in fact, present opportunities for strategic acquisitions. The company had a pipeline, apparently, of more than 20 acquisition targets, similar to the decade-long spree, which had saw buy-up studios including Days of Wonder, Fantasy Flight, Lookout Games, Catan Studios, Z-Man Games. I mean, if you think about it, they bought a huge string of major companies over time, and then they had to stop. When Embracer Group, their former parent company, kind of ran into some liquidity issues. Now Embracer is creating separate companies. Asmodee is now a separate company. They can do what they want, separately traded. So watch out for the acquisitions coming up.
Yeah, I heard about this about 6 months ago that they were back in the game, so to speak. And I'll be curious to see who's on the list, who's going to be the companies that they give offers to.
Yep. Indeed, indeed. And in speaking of Embracer Group, and in their continued spin-off of other assets, they have announced that their other two companies that they decided that they were going to spin off into will be happening in the relatively near future. And so they announced Dark Horse Comics parent Embracer Group has provided more details on its plan to spin off more assets, leaving a smaller company with a new name behind with its quarterly earnings report. The breakup of the company was first announced over a year ago. Asmodee was spun off into a new public company in February. By the way, this is on ICV2, and the previous discussion with the CEO was on Board Game Wire, our very good friends.
I think it's really amazing that they're kind of rebranding and renaming and swapping little pieces around between these remaining companies. So the Dark Horse Comics group is going to be called Coffee Stain Group. And it will hold some video game assets as well. And the date for the actual launch of the new company, the spinoff, is end of calendar year 2025. And then I don't know how you feel about this one, Stephen, but they renamed the Middle-earth Enterprises side. First, they went with Middle-earth and Friends.
Yeah, they were going with and Friends for everything.
And now it's going to be called Fellowship Entertainment.
I don't care. It's a good name. It's a fine name. I kind of like the other name a little bit better, but you know what? It's a name. As long as they operate well, give licenses out, it's great.
What's really cool about it is they are putting a lot of their licensing in this one company. So, yes, it's going to have Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, but it's also going to have Tomb Raider and 300 additional gaming IPs. So it looks like there's going to be an IP and licensing company, the strength of which is going to be that Lord of the Rings license.
Very cool. So Cephalofair Games is starting to move product now. They had announced that they were holding product in China. ICV2 has helped them announce that Cephalofair Games has notified backers of Gloomhaven Second Edition crowdfunding project that it is now moving the product that had been stranded in China as a result of the 145% tariffs enforced during April. Ocean transit has now been booked at higher prices due to the rush of product currently headed for the U.S. and games are expected to arrive in the U.S. in late June. Once congested ports are navigated, backer fulfillment will begin, presumably with trade release to follow. So that's some good news for those backers. And generally, I mean, it is something that all gamers out there should recognize, that it is now a point where if product was stranded, it's on its way. If companies were waiting to print, and I'll raise my hand, and probably Ignacy, we were not printing. Play to Z said, hold on, we're not going to print yet in China until this all got sorted out. And now printing has started again, which is very good news. And more on the tariffs on ICV2. Catalyst Game Labs announces tariff price increases after paying, this is great, $240,000 on product on the water when tariffs were announced. Now, this is interesting.
We're going to hear this story a lot. We're going to have a lot of one-off announcements of companies that are going to increase prices, I think, if tariffs continue to be chaotic like this.
Right. Callus Game Labs has announced price increases on its non-book products, after paying $240,000 in unexpected import taxes on product that was in the pipeline when tariffs were announced. Force packs and box sets will go up by $5. Salvage products up by $1. So they've got various increases in their products. They played this extra amount, and I don't know if the on the water statement that ICV2 is making is correct, because that's not the way it's supposed to work. If it's literally on the water, you've loaded onto a ship and you're left port, you're not supposed to get hit with any changes in tariffs, because it was not an expected thing. However, it might have been that ship had to make a different port back in China before it left. So who knows? But they ended up paying almost $250,000 to get some of their product in, which is really, really bad. And Ignacy, this one is especially for you, because we found this out, and it's actually, we have it here in news, and it came from CNBC.com that Trump delayed the tariffs for all EU countries until July 9th. It's actually was presented on CNBC.com on May 25th, 2 days ago. So Ignacy, you're in good shape.
Yep. And it's
it's awesome.
The president of the European Commission, who's Ursula von der Leyen, requested an extension to be able to negotiate a deal. So July 9th was accepted by everybody.
Very, very good. All right. So we now have some news out of the Diamond Comics situation. Diamond will no longer distribute Marvel Comics or Dark Horse, IDW, Boom, and others. And this actually came from Random House via ICV2. Penguin Random House Publisher Services has told its customers it will no longer distribute comics through Diamond as a sub-distributor, and provided a schedule for the transition. The move affects Marvel Comics, Dark Horse Comics, IDW Publishing, Boom Studios, and potentially others. It's unclear whether the move affects Penguin Random House book distribution clients, including Kodansha Comics. So
wow.
They had some nice words in their goodbye to Diamond, but there's almost no doubt, as Corey put it, that Diamond is a tainted brand, and they just didn't want to be associated with them. That's speculation a little bit on my part, but they're back in business. Why would you take back all of that from them? Unless you're like, I had enough of these guys, even if they're under new management. I'm just not interested in doing business there anymore. And what was interesting, go ahead.
It's like who's left? Of course, DC Comics is a big elephant in the room. There's no mention who is still with Diamond, but that's the only big one left.
Right. And the new owner of Diamond Comics, which is called Adopulum, and if you remember, they are the parent company of NECA and WizKids. Those are very big names.
Right.
They responded to this by saying how disappointed they were in this. So it's disappointing that after years of collaboration, Penguin Random House has abruptly cut off access to products for our loyal retailers and fans, the Diamond spokesman said. We're focused on actively working with other publishers to remedy the situation and minimize disruption. This is again on ICV2. So not good news for a lot of people in various ways, particularly bad news for Diamond themselves. On the good news side, hopefully, Renegade Games Studios expanding in Europe. This on ICV2, with U.S. game sales facing a challenging period due to import taxes on imported products. Renegade Games Studios has made moves to expand its distribution in Europe through new strategic relationships with Saga Alliance and HEO GmbH, the companies announced. The new relationships will improve Renegade's ability to support European retailers, grow organized play programs, and improve access to Renegade products. So this is good stuff. But of course, this doesn't solve anyone's problems for what's going on in the U.S.
Well, I mean, this is expected.
Instead of moving production to America, you are guys losing business and companies leaving America.
Yeah. Instead
That's
of
awesome.
printing here, the companies are focusing elsewhere.
So at least until things get less volatile.
Yeah. We've talked about it. There's literally no way to all of a sudden set up production of board games in the US. Heck, Apple can't do it with iPhones and iPads and all their stuff. Literally, Trump announced that they might get hit with huge tariffs because they're not going to do it. They can't do it. Everything would cost twice as much if they did it. So it's not happening.
We're seeing it all over the place. Like the announcement of the Switch 2 has a separate price for the American market,
right?
Purely because of tariffs.
Right. And our final story is that GAMA will be doing a fly-in to Washington, D.C. to do lobbying for zero tariffs on toys and games. Okay, this is great, right? Again, this is a thing GAMA can organize.
Yeah, this is our new GAMA. We've complained for a while about GAMA and what it does and what it doesn't do. And I wanted to pull this out. This was from the GAMA newsletter, that on June 10th and 11th, they are going to have an event at Capitol Hill to lobby for zero tariffs on toys and games. So it's Tuesday afternoon, June 10th, and Wednesday, June 11th in DC. So if you're interested in joining this, contact GAMA. This is just a list of actions that GAMA is taking in the current situation, trying to protect the industry.
And just to amplify that, any GAMA member was notified in the weekly newsletter. So you can go there, click, and say I want to show up, or just go over to the GAMA website, and literally anybody can show up. Even if you're a regular gamer, and you could be in Washington D.C. either June 10th and 11th, or there's a separate one on June 25th. You can go and support the efforts. It's, they're going to try to make people understand that we pay the tariffs. That's what it's called. We pay the tariffs. So if you want to be there, please go over and do that. And in the meantime, let's get to
just one more comment. Yes,
of course.
Because I was always complaining on GAMA, but I need to say that in the past months, these past few weeks, they were very active. So we are now reporting this one thing that they are doing, but there was a lot of seminars, meeting with the publisher. They were super active. If you are a publisher or retailer or distributor, you had direct contact with them. As I said, there were seminars, there was live streams, chances to ask questions. I was complaining for years that when there were some issues, like during the COVID, for instance, we were left alone. Here, I was not feeling left alone, so kudos. There
He's
was
like,
also a new election is coming to GAMA, but that's another story.
well, someone resigned from the board, so
Yeah,
there's an
so the
election.
publisher's seat is going to be
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay. They, if somebody resigns because of personal
No,
reasons,
I'm saying this just a joke. As I said, once again, four weeks of very professional support for the publishers and distributors.
yes. And Ignacy now being a big supporter of GAMA because at Essen, Nicole Brady visited Ignacy to say, "Hey, we're doing good work here." Right? Right? She did, didn't she?
It was really fun
It's the
organizing
case,
that
but
meetup.
what actually happened? Now I'm in the loop, and now I'm shown this work, and that's why I'm praising it, because now I
Very
see
good.
there's a lot of amazing work done.
Very good. Ignacy is a convert to GAMA.
Wow.
We love to hear it.
Clutching my
And
pearls here.
and now strategy and tactics. All right. Thank you, listeners, for posting questions. And then we're taking questions that are just a couple of months old. So you post up there, we're going to be getting to them very fast. Rick
Wow.
Bolke, he's at R Bolke from January 4th only. My family is about to complete our first legacy game. Woohoo! We have been playing Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West. We've had a great time, and although I'm curious how it will play after we complete the campaign, I'm also wondering how I would eventually go by purging it from the collection. Would anyone actually want to acquire a used legacy game? Should I just deposit it in the trash, or does it depend on the game? That's interesting.
Yeah, I've wondered about this a lot because just like nowadays, if you publish a game, it's kind of expected to have some solo and two-player rules. If you publish a legacy game, it's expected to have that little tagline fully playable after the legacy elements are over.
Sure.
I'm really curious how many people do that. That might be a good question.
I'm trying to think if I've ever played a legacy game after I completed it. And I'm going to answer no. I mean, Ticket to Ride, I was trying to think if I played it like one more time, maybe, but I don't even think that Paula is literally going one time. So after the game was over, we played it one more. Thank you, Paula. Thank you. Ms. Milano, our crack reporter over in the other room. So there, but we have no, so what his question is there value to it? Should I sell it? I mean, I guess it just depends on your collection. I like to leave.
Pass this to the listeners.
Not a bad question, Corey.
Yeah, I go ahead, Ignacy.
I would say that when I was playing legacy games and when I was finishing these games, that felt awesome. That would felt that I did something, and I didn't feel urge to play it again. I didn't feel a need to have it in my collection. It was like an amazing entertainment, amazing experience. It was done. I was super happy, and I trust the game. Like I dumped it, I think the legacy games are meant to be like that. That you are getting these 12 or 16 games, or depending on the game, of amazing story-driven experience, and then you are done, and you said, "Wow, that was awesome," and you just
I'm
move
kind
on.
of the same. That once I've played it, it was amazing, and I know it's replayable, but I've never done it. I want to bring up when Legacy Games second showed up, because remember, they first showed up in Risk Legacy, and they were a little bit underground, didn't hear too much about it. But once Pandemic Legacy hit, there was a huge trend to take your finished Legacy game and make a diorama of it, to print it up with all the changes and hang it up somewhere. A lot of people were doing that. And I think that's a fantastic nostalgic idea, is to just remember how great all those twists and plot changes and everything were by seeing the final Legacy game.
I always said that I love legacy games because when you're done with the entire experience, you now have an artifact of your gaming life, right? So when there was a moment in Risk Legacy where I changed the name of South America to South Bonacore. And my friends
do not want to hear anything about South Bonacore.
And my friends were irate, like flip the table irate that I would do such a thing, because you're allowed to do that. You may now name the continent since you've conquered the continent. And I did, and it was awesome. So you have these things. I still have Risk Legacy here someplace. We actually never finished it because two of the guys said, "Yeah, there's too much risk in this, and not. I love the legacy. I hate the risk. So the legacy's a 10, and the risk is a 1. That was kind of their logic. I always wanted to finish it, but didn't quite do it. But I keep my legacy games. We're going to use this question down. Thank you, Corey, for even mentioning that. That's a good one. I'm going to keep tweaking the question until we go.
I think it's a great question. Yeah. Anything to put the pressure off of me.
Yeah. Corey, why don't you take the next question here while I finish that up?
So Glenn Slagle, who very cooperatively said how to pronounce his name, at Power Trout, said, I've heard it said that you shouldn't commission art for prototypes that you plan to pitch to publishers. However, many of the sell sheets that I have, I see at least some professional looking illustrations, either logos or boards or card art. Is it common for designers to overdo their sell sheets? I feel tempted to commission some art to compete for eyeballs, even if everyone says not to. And when you've been pitched a game, what state was it in real terms? What have you seen on pitched games? Was it black and white clip art or full color illustrations? And were the winners, the sell sheets or pitches for games that you actually published, different in some way that caught your attention? Ed Glenn is asking for a friend. So I think this is more to you guys. I have played a good share of prototypes, and I've played everything from Sharpie on white index paper all the way through a lot of art and fill-ins and things like that. But
but these days the answer is super simple. These days, like 95% of prototypes I received have AI artwork. This is as simple as that. Of course, we can now discuss about AI artwork for another 1 hour, but I'm talking about the reality. Reality is that every submission now, prototype by the young designers, has AI art.
But let's make it clear that artwork that game, they're making it look pretty for you. So if they go out and use AI art, or they go and use Star Wars or Lord of the Rings art, that's okay. You're allowed to do that when producing a prototype to show, this is my vision. This guy, this is the bad guy. He's going to look like Darth Vader or something like that. You're allowed to do that later on. The publisher will change it.
There are a lot of prototypes that are pitched with an IP. This is my new Lord of the Rings game. Sure. And it doesn't mean that it'll have that IP when it's finally published. I think the bottom line that we're both all dancing around is it's not important to have really, really pretty art on a prototype because it will inevitably be changed. If some art makes the essence of the game easier to grok, if the art helps the publisher quickly see what the game's about and how the game plays. Like if you just have a lot of typed text on a white sheet, it brings you out of the suspension of disbelief and you lose the game because you're constantly reading and trying to figure out what's going on. If you can put some makeshift icons, some makeshift art to make it more palatable, that'll help.
100%.
I know a lot of publishers that if they see a completely overproduced prototype, they might actually give it a little knockback. They might be, a little overdone by overdone art.
Yeah, I don't have that opinion. If somebody gives, because some of the best designers out there, they just take pride in how they structure things and stuff like that. Andrew Parks, right? Good friend of mine. He a great designer. We've worked together. Every time I see a prototype from him, the guy he blows it out. He's brilliantly takes things from the internet, brilliantly adds the AI, whatever the case may be. It looks great. And then you get into it. You get into the feel. This is the view of how he thinks. And he's also can do a lot of good stuff because he could do graphic design as well. Not as good as, but he can do graphic design. So he does a lot of his stuff on his own. So I like when people do that. Do you have to do that? No. Can a game win, and get published, without any of that? Of course. You can show up with black and white cards with just text and stuff. But as Corey, as you just mentioned, I think it takes you out of the game experience if that's the only thing that you're seeing.
Yeah,
Let's make it
famously.
very let's, let's make it very clear. Do not submission art. Like, do not pay for the art for the portrait. Like, this
That's
is
a great idea.
overkill.
Yes,
That is
yes, yes, yes.
overdoing it. Use
Never
AI, steal from the internet. This is just for the sales pitch. You are just showing it for the maybe one
Yeah.
meeting and that's it. So don't pay for it.
don't pay for the art or the graphic design unless you absolutely need a few things.
Sure.
That stuff can come from AI, and that's okay. The publisher then is on them to create the final art, final graphic design. Great question. Risa K, who's at Lady Zavage. Rice. Oh, and it's Risa. Lisa with an R.
I think our
Reese-
listeners are starting to learn that Stephen Bonacore has a little issue reading some of these things.
Come on, man. Thank you, Risa, for helping me out. Do you ever modify game components for easier play, setup, or storage? I'm not not talking upgraded components, but things like drawing the starting token symbols on the Spirit Island boards for playing with expansions. I'm not sure what that is. Drawing dots on the Pandemic board for use with the Hinterlands expansion instead of the cumbersome discs. Cutting a
Marking
board that
activate.
doesn't fold in half so it fits in a smaller box when trying to optimize storage.
Oh,
So
I've never done that. That's beyond me.
So I think no, I've never modified. I've upgraded components occasionally, right, on my favorite games, but I don't think I've ever modified things to make it easier to play.
Sometimes certain colors could be very, very similar to me, especially in dark rooms. And there have been times I've taken components of a certain color and just put Sharpie dots on all the wooden pieces so that I don't need to rely on the color. Other than that, I haven't done too much as far as modifying actual components or writing actual things in.
And what is very common among players, obviously, to improve setup is inserts. The custom inserts that you have,
Sure.
wooden or foam inserts, and then you just put the game on the table so much easier. But this is now part of the industry. There's literally companies doing these inserts
Right.
to help players with setup.
Yeah, I would maybe even put that in the same category as upgraded tokens. Right, I've done plenty of them and they help.
Yep.
Lucas Connors, who's at Revolution Tech, he asks, sorry for the stupid question. There are no stupid questions. But how does a publisher track the actual number of copies of a game that have been sold to customers? It's actually pretty easy.
This is a good question. Yeah.
It's a good question, though. And he continues with, obviously, a publisher would know how many copies of the game that they sold to distributors and retailers, but how do they find out when a game is actually sold to the customer? Oh, okay, I got it. Does this data get reported back to the publisher somehow? If so, at what frequency is the data reported? Does it vary by retailer? Okay, Ignacio, why don't you start with this one?
So yes, on one hand, we get these reports because you, as a publisher, are in direct contact with the distributor, and the distributor provides you stock levels. So if you sold to them, for instance, 500 copies of Detective, every month you see how the stock is going lower and lower and lower. So if you want, you can calculate how much copies of this game they actually sold to the retailers. Then, of course, you are losing the data. You have no clue how all these Detective copies are on the shelves of the retailer. But you can see that the stock is going lower and lower distributor. So most likely the retailer sold it to the customer and restocked. So we can do it. Obviously, at least for me, like I don't care. For me, when I sell to the distributor, of course I want to see the stock numbers, but I'm not, hunting down the data to see how many actual gamers in Texas, in Dallas bought the game. Like I need to move it to the B2B level, not to the end customer.
Exactly. And we all get the reports on our own stock level, right? What we have in the warehouse from whoever is doing the warehousing, PSI for many companies in the US. But that last sale to the customer is mostly unknown. We know it from Amazon, all right? That's a direct sale to a customer. right? Okay, we can get that number, sort of. But we can't get that the Joe mom and pop shop on the corner sold X copies. But we know that distributors are restocking. Distributors restocking means retailers are selling the games. And
That's the
the whole
thing, is it's mostly inductive. So if it doesn't get sold to the final customer, you're never going to get sales to the retailer. So it all feeds back.
Very, very cool.
So make it very clear, because most likely our listener asks because our gamers see the information. John Stonemeyer Games sold 100 copies of Wingspan, or somebody sold 3 million copies of Ticket to Ride. And these are the numbers that we know that we moved this product to the distribution, and most likely these games are then sold to the end customers. But we are announcing this big data, announcing these big success stories. We are talking about our product moved to the distribution, not our product moved to the end customer.
Very, very cool, guys. Now, I think
And
we got to move on.
One more? Can I add one more value information?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because this is what we are doing here, right? So it may be situation, and I had it in the past as a company, that you as a publisher are sold out. So the game is sold out, success story, great success. But actually the game, for instance, has a bad reviews, first Martians, I'm talking about you, and the game is stuck on the shelves and is actually not sold to the customers. So my message from the publisher would be that I sold 30,000 of First Martians, but it doesn't mean that 30,000 people is playing this game. So this one additional information about how these numbers are
And we
tricky
should throw in
sometimes.
there as well, with the big box stores, there is a totally separate channel of distribution. If you are lucky enough to have your game go to Walmart or Target or something like this, you have numbers of how much you sold to them, but very often it comes with a buyback clause. If you send a whole bunch of copies to one of these retailers, they often, if it doesn't move and it doesn't sell, they'll force you to buy back your inventory. And that's a very direct measure of, is it selling to customers?
I was there too in Polish market, on Polish market, but it's the same case. Like you think that you sold 5,000 copies of a game, and then 18 months later you have 2,000 back, and this is not fun at all.
Not fun, not fun. All right, gentlemen, great discussion. Let's get over to play testing. All right, Corey, you gave us the question last week, as you normally do. What was the question?
Yep.
And what did people say?
So this is what I've just been wondering about for a while. Would you pay extra for a game signed by the designer or the artist?
So I was pretty sure what sort of answers we'd get, but I was really entertained by the different stories we had around here. Looking through, there's the vast majority of answers were no. There is not a market for a signed game in terms of paying more money, but there's a lot of love for having signed games because most designers and publishers are happy to sign games, and it's a nice little reminder. You open the box, and on the inside of the box, you have a nice signature. For instance, Ann W. wrote, "Oh, great! Is this one of these moments where I find out that even among gamers, I'm weird?" And there's some game called Pret a Porter that is signed by someone that I think. I don't know. It's all consonants. This has to be a.
I can't pronounce that name.
No.
That was a great picture. She shows the inside of the box. It says "Thank you, enjoy," and it says Chevychek. Not even Ignacy, just Chevychek in 2019. KS Ignacy. What did that mean? You said 2019 KS.
Kickstarter.
Oh, okay. So somehow,
Beautiful.
Did you sign this game before it went out to certain people? How did that work?
I'm just checking. I'm just checking right now. I don't remember. I think that, I mean, for sure there was a pledge level that you paid a little bit more for signed copy, and I was signing some of these copies. But I'm now checking if there was some charity action. I'm trying to find the context. It was many years ago, so You talk, guys.
I
I'm
also
doing this investigation.
Okay. So
I
it's
also have a few Ignacy signed games, even one with a
yeah.
little cow.
Well, that's and that's interesting. Like I love, if I happen to have a game and the designer is right there, I'll make them sign it. But it's still a thing where like it's not like a oh my God, I have to do this and I'll pay for it. And designers, of course, and designers or artists will do it for free. They're not gonna charge you. But it's funny as I go through these answers, it's hard to find somebody that's saying yes to this question. This is the closest one. Jay Atkinson says, in general, no, but maybe if it was for charity. Yeah, that's a great answer, right? And I've done that where like there was a game
Yeah.
for auction and like, oh, I want that game and oh, it's signed, I'll pay more. And it's for charity, so who cares? I want to give money to the charity. That was one of the few relative yeses in this whole thing. And obviously was a yes, but some people were just like, Adam C says no. Just no, that was his answer.
And
Nothing
we've got
else.
Nick Shaw says no. Not sure I need to clarify any further, but basically I don't know if it would increase resale value, and I never buy a game with the specific intent of reselling it. So it wouldn't be any part of my decision to buy a game. It'd be pretty cool to have a signed box, of course, but I'm not paying any more for it.
VD Ward, no, I won't. This is not only at board games, but also for other stuff. So this just doesn't want signed stuff in his house. It's
The
interesting.
big one that I have that I actually got at auction is I have a signed copy of Mechs versus Minions, which was
Oh.
published by Riot Games.
Yep.
And the entire Riot team signed
Oh,
the
that's
box.
pretty cool.
And I got that at auction when Mechs with Minions was very new. So this has to be 5-7 years ago.
This is a great
I
one.
checked that there was 100 copies of Pret-a-Porter, it's like a reward level, but I don't remember that. I cannot find the reason for that. So I guess it was some charity part, but I don't remember right now. But yes, there was 100 copies signed by me.
Very cool.
Indeed.
Very cool. And so that's my good friend Ann W, who has your signed copy, and she's very excited that she has that. And everybody else is not excited about signed copies. This is a great.
There's a few that are excited about artist signatures.
Yep. That had more yeses. This is my favorite maybe answer of all. Joe McLeod Iredale from the UK says, I'd pay for them to sign a confession to a crime that I committed. So he's just not interested.
That's specifically for you, Steve.
Well, Joe's committing the crime. I don't know. Oh, that's great. So Corey, you literally.
Yeah, I came up with this question.
Just a few minutes ago,
completely independently. So I think it's a fantastic question.
It is
better than the ones that I had made up. So I'm stealing from our feedback.
Stealing from our listeners.
Do you keep your legacy games after they're completed? Do you play even once the legacy games once they're completed? And do legacy games after completion have a value in the aftermarket? Would you sell, or I think more notably, would you buy an already played legacy game, or should you just trash it after it's done?
Yeah, so I think
what our listeners think.
So I think we've discussed already what our answer is, except for maybe the end. I won't trash it, and I want to keep it. So that's my answer, and I think we've already answered.
Yeah, I trashed one legacy game.
Okay.
And I kind of regret it. I would like to look back at it. I like the whole idea of making a memento of it.
It's an artifact of your gaming life. You can't
throw
it out. Sometimes you just need to.
It's a little bit complex because, of course, we have different types of the legacy games. Like you mentioned, guys, Risk Legacy, awesome on your wall with this soft Bonocore name of the continent, awesome. But on the other hand, when you play Aeon's End great deck builder in a version of Legacy, after finishing the Legacy elements, you have all these cards that you can use in a regular Aeon's End.
Yes.
So after finishing the campaign, you just take them, put them in a regular box, and just play.
That's true.
So of course, there are different types of Legacy games.
Yeah, that's
but the general answer is after finishing the game, you feel awesome. That's it.
Yeah, that's a very, very good comment to add here. That there are ones that you absolutely will have to keep because you're a big fan of the IP of that game system. You just add them into the base game. That's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool.
That's what I do with my Eons N.
There you go. So Ignacy right now is creating a thread on Board Game Geek. I saw him copying the stuff out there. Go to the Guild on Board Game Geek and find our playtesting thread for this question and post your answer, and maybe we'll take it and talk about it next week. In the meantime, it's the final scoring. Thank you so much for listening, and help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. You want to be part of the podcast? You can. Go to the Guild, become a member, ask us questions for strategy and tactics there, answer our question to you from the playtesting segment. It's real simple. I know you can do it. Please interact with us on social media. Amazingly, the handle's the same on all platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Board Games Insider, Portal Games US, Podfather Gaming, Dice Tower Dish, Play2Z Games, and Above Board TV. Follow us on your social media of choice and speak directly to us on those platforms. A special call out to our YouTube channels, which are the biggest part of what we do. And those YouTube channels are Portal Games Studio, The Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. We'd love to see you in an upcoming convention, and that would be, Corey, RageCon?
RageCon, end of June. That's
And
the next one for me.
Middle of June for Origins for me. Ignacy, any appearances for you? No.
No.
Nothing for Ignacy. So if you do see us at any of these cons, please come up, talk to us. We love to chat. We really live for that. And Board Games Insider was professionally edited by Jake Thompson. Thank you, Jake, for being part of the team. And that great voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, the in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do your voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Gentlemen, do we have anything special to add? Somebody put something down here, Corey.
I just want to put out there that there were quite a few people who did come up to me at KublaCon and were so nice. It always feels so good and flattering to have fans of the show. Special shout out to Lonnie Kim. I was getting breakfast at the crack of dawn. I was really dumb at KublaCon. I was terrified that the traffic for the Memorial Day weekend would be really bad. I drove to the convention at 4 a.m. and arrived at 6 a.m. and there was almost nobody there. I missed nothing. It's that FOMO. But I got a breakfast and I walked over to a table that was close by and said, "Do you mind if I sit here and eat?" And he looked up and went, "It's Corey Thompson from Above Board TV."
There you go. Nice.
So it was really fun. And thanks again to Lonnie Kim for just a nice morning, a nice breakfast.
That's great. We really live to get those stories and those interactions. So we hope that more fans will do that, or more friends, or more just people who know us. Come and say hi. We always love that. Until next time, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
See you later, everyone.